Imagine this. A top-tier pharmaceutical giant claims it has invented a miracle drug that can cure the common cold, but there's a catch hidden deep in its patented molecular design. Once you take the pill, you don't just fail to fully recover, you actually develop a mild dependency. Not enough to notice at first, but sufficient to ensure that every month you're forced to subscribe to an upgraded version of the same drug just to keep feeling normal. You would probably call this what it is, a predatory, inhumane corporation. But in the world of modern internet technology, there is already a multi-billion-dollar, fully legal industry that appears to operate on a surprisingly similar logic. That industry is modern dating apps. After deeply analyzing the business model behind this ecosystem, I came across a disturbing paradox from a pure KPI standpoint. The very systems that claim to help you find love are, in fact, structurally incentivized not to let you leave. Why? Because in their financial logic, the moment you successfully find a partner and delete the app, the system permanently loses a high-value daily active user. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on what I call the loneliness economy and examine how some of the smartest statisticians and algorithm engineers in the world quietly turn every hopeful swipe into profit for the house. When you open the App Store and look at the endless variety of dating platforms, you might assume you're looking at a competitive free market designed to maximize user choice. Hinge markets itself as designed to be deleted. Tinder promises speed and efficiency. OkCupid sells the idea of deep compatibility and emotional alignment. But this is nothing more than a carefully engineered illusion of freedom. If you look at official filings submitted to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, a chilling pattern emerges. After reviewing multiple industry reports from recent years, one fact becomes impossible to ignore. More than half of the global online dating market is controlled by a single publicly traded giant on Nasdaq Match Group. It's as if you walked into a massive supermarket, carefully selecting different bottles from different shelves, only to discover later that every single brand came from the same factory. The genius of this structure lies in constant acquisition and platform fragmentation. By owning multiple apps that appear to compete with each other, the company effectively monopolizes human loneliness itself. When you feel frustrated on one platform and switch to another, you believe you've changed environments. In reality, your data, your attention, and your money have simply moved from one pocket of the same giant corporation to another. Monopoly is often the first step toward invisible exploitation. To understand how these systems quietly engineer addiction, we need to go back to one of the most influential experiments in behavioral psychology. In the mid-20th century, Harvard psychologist B.F. Skinner discovered a powerful behavioral principle. When a rat presses a lever and consistently receives food, it eventually stops pressing once it's full. But when rewards become unpredictable, sometimes a reward comes after one press. Sometimes after 100, the rat becomes obsessed. It keeps pressing indefinitely. This is known as intermittent reinforcement. Modern dating apps, in essence, are a real-world implementation of Skinner's box. Except the subject is human. The swipe right gesture is neurologically almost identical to pulling a slot machine lever. Most of the time, nothing happens. No match, no reward, just silence. And then, right at the peak of frustration, the system suddenly gives you a match. That unpredictability triggers a sharp dopamine spike. Research shows this kind of reward pattern is highly addictive. The system is not optimizing for your success in finding a partner. It is training your nervous system to stay engaged, waiting for the next random hit of emotional reward. Even if you are not exceptional in the real world, you still have tools, humor, charisma, kindness, timing. But in the cold world of algorithmic matching, you are not a person. You are data. During my research into recommendation systems, I noticed something widely discussed but rarely openly acknowledged: hidden ranking scores. Early versions of Tinder were reported to use an ELO-style rating system, similar to chess rankings, to classify users by perceived attractiveness. Although companies now publicly claim they use more advanced machine learning systems instead of a simple ELO score, reverse engineering analysis and multiple user tests suggest the core idea remains unchanged. The system continuously evaluates your performance. How often you get swiped, right? How many matches you convert, how much engagement you generate. And based on that, it assigns you an invisible attractiveness weight. If you are an average user, that score tends to decline over time. The most dangerous part is not rejection, it is invisibility. Because the algorithm may quietly reduce your exposure without ever telling you. You think you are actively participating, swiping hundreds of times every night. But in reality, your profile may have already been pushed into the deep ocean of the system. barely shown to anyone. You are no longer competing. You are simply not on the table. And once the system has extracted enough engagement from your hope and frustration, the real monetization layer begins. After testing and analyzing the paywall structures of over a dozen major dating apps, one economic pattern appears repeatedly: first-degree price discrimination. When your frustration peaks, the system intervenes. See who liked you, boost your profile for 30 minutes. Send a super like to stand out, pay to play. Because the algorithm may quietly reduce your exposure without ever telling you. You think you are actively participating, swiping hundreds of times every night. But in reality, your profile may have already been pushed into the deep ocean of the system, barely shown to anyone. You are no longer competing. You are simply not on the table. And once the system has extracted enough engagement from your hope and frustration, the real monetization layer begins. After testing and analyzing the paywall structures of over a dozen major dating apps, one economic pattern appears repeatedly: first-degree price discrimination. When your frustration peaks, the system intervenes. See who liked you, boost your profile for 30 minutes. Send a super like to stand out, pay to play. The platform artificially creates scarcity, amplifies your social anxiety, and then repackages basic human interaction as a premium product. It is as if someone hides all the water in a desert and then sells you a cup of muddy liquid at 10 times the price. And the most ironic part, independent studies and user data reports consistently show that for most paying users, especially average male users, these features do not significantly improve their match success rate. What they are really buying is not results. It is hope, a temporary illusion that tomorrow might be different. So whenever I see people around me spiraling into self-doubt because they are not getting matches, I remind them of one thing: do not let an algorithm's indifference define your self-worth. We return now to the original paradox. Why would these systems not want you to find love? Because in this carefully optimized business model, your continued loneliness is not a failure. It is the product. As long as you remain single, as long as you feel just a little bit incomplete, you will keep swiping, keep engaging, and keep paying. In this system, a happily matched couple who deletes the app is not a success story. It is two lost customers. In this cybernetic marketplace of engineered attention, you were never the customer. You were the inventory. Your desires, your anxieties, and your late-night loneliness are the most valuable commodities on the shelf. So the next time you find yourself alone at night, instinctively reaching for that familiar app again, remember this: you are not entering a dating. You are stepping into a casino designed by some of the best mathematicians, behavioral scientists, and engineers in the world. And in that casino, there is only one guaranteed winner: the house.